And this is fun. Many students usually like this because when you're programming at the command line, it's like, oh, how boring is that? You know, and it's not because we're learning all the fundamental concepts. Implementing a GUI is another whole thing on top of it. We have to have a library of some sort that has those widgets. And widgets would be all these different things on the screen. That's the generic term for all those little buttons and stuff. So we're importing Tkinter, which is built into Python. It's an older library. It looks kind of dorky, but it does work. There are other libraries you can use like PySide that look really cool, but it's a whole nother level of learning to do that. This is a good place to start. So we import Tkinter, we create a main window. This is a object that we're creating. Remember object-oriented programming? We're creating a Tkinter object called root. This is our window. So this is a window. A graphical program is constantly looping, waiting for input, just like our game we're working on. Remember, Pygame keeps waiting and waiting for you to do an event? The same thing here. This event loop keeps waiting for us to click on something. And this is the simplest you can get. There it is. It has all the normal things a window has. We can drag it around, we can maximize it, we can minimize it. It doesn't do anything else, but notice it's responding to what I'm doing because it's constantly waiting for input of some sort. I mean, it's not that great. But now we need to show a label. Well, now it gets complicated. And not actually that complicated because maybe we want the window size to be a certain size. So geometry means that I can set my window 300 pixels by 100 pixels. That's what those numbers are for. Then I create a label and I have to say, where am I going to attach that label? Well, we only have one window, so I'm going to attach that label to the root. In that label is going to have the text, hello world. Then this just creates the label. I have to use a, oh, what is it called? This layout method, layout manager, so that it'll actually put it on the window. And pack is like one we'll never use again because it really has nothing that's useful other than it does this. There, it does easily put this on. So the window is 300 by 100. You put in a label in the middle because that's the default of pack, which pack is just not that useful. Which means we go very quickly into the grid layout manager. The grid layout manager is how most programs are laid out. So if you look here, row 0, column 0, we're in computers, right? Everything starts at 0. Most things do. Here's row 0, column 1, row 0, column 2. So it is a grid layout. So for example, where do you see grid layouts every day? Here's one. Grid, row, column. Every program we use is laid out in some sort of a grid format. We can combine rows together to get one big long column. We can divide things. So let's take a look at our next program. Let me find the next one. Contact form UI. Okay, that's not it. All right, here we go. Fred, contact form. There we go. So a little more complex. We're still doing our window. We add a title. We say we want it this size. Look at all these labels we're creating. Now grid allows us to say this is going to be in the upper left. Row 0, column 0. Padding means we're going to have room around the widget so that we can more easily read it. Sticky means which direction is east? To the left. Even if you're facing the other way, it's still to the left. Well, these labels are great, but maybe we want to enter something. Well, it's called entry. The entry widget. We want it 25 characters wide, not 25 pixels, because that's how many characters you can type in. You can type in more than that, but if you type in 25 characters, that's how wide it's going to be. This will be row 0, column 1, so it's going to be right next to it. There it is. Row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1. row 1, column 0, row, boy, that's hard to say. Row 1, column 1. Row, what would this one be? 0, 1, 2, which column? 0. This is going to be column 1, 1, 1, row 0, 1, 2. So when I say something like Bill, and my email is Loring W, I submit it, I can display that entered information in another label. So now we can get input, we can provide output. How much more complicated is it before we can actually do a program that calculates things? We just have to convert things into numbers, calculate, and display it. Like our command line interface program, yes.
Oh, I feel bad just looking.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Sean, sorry. Should
No,
have.
you're okay. I didn't want to interrupt.
Resuming. So it's a beautiful looking program. Well, no, it's kind of clunky looking stuff, but it is graphical. And there's our email label. There's our entry guy, right? So we have where's my button? Button. There it is. So there's my button. It has root so that it's attached to our main window. The text on the button is submit, but what good is a button if you can't run a command? So the command is submit, which means somewhere we have to have a function or a method that fires. There it is. When we click submit, we use the get method to get whatever is in bring this up here. It gets the text out of this. The other one gets the text out of this. And then we use the display label config, meaning we're configuring the display label to display this particular text string, which is you entered whatever the name is up here, this variable, whatever the email is. And you notice I'm using our F strings that we've used before because output, just like our command line, is text. Input is text. In and out is always text. How do we clear everything? We delete, and we have to say from the beginning to the end. So that deletes all the text in it. In the entry box, if we assign a 0 empty string, that takes care of the text box. So when I've typed in, some programming languages will have clear of the text boxes, Tkinter doesn't. So it has to go through and literally clear each character. So we're starting from 0, which is B, going clear to the end of however many things this can store, which is 24 or whatever we said. Then it has to do the same thing here, go from the beginning to the end. This, we enter a blank string, which is 2 double quotes or single quotes right next to each other. And now it looks invisible, although it's still there. We can put borders and things around text, labels and all kinds of fancy stuff. But that's the basics of how we do that. And if you look at the grid, as I'm going, there's the button, submit button, there's the clear button, row 2, column 1. And a good way to design a program when you're doing one on your own is to, let me go find it, I have it in here somewhere. Draw it out. Because I have an assignment where you make your own. There it is. You draw it out. So then you can go 0, 1, 2, right? 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. I mean, so you can easily figure out which one is which. You just do a quick sketch on a piece of paper. Or there's like a little program that actually called Pencil that allow you to do it. So it allows you to make a little program like that. A little layout. This is called wireframe. When you're doing, like when professional developers do GUIs and they do websites, they sketch out a wireframe that just shows the customer, this is what it's going to look like before they actually do all the coding. So a wireframe is a way to prototype things. Quite often they'll use some sort of a program like this where they can just quickly stick things in there and say, this is what it's going to look like, and they don't have to code the whole thing. So that's our, we have different themes. Okay. I guess I don't have you do one, do I? I'm just showing you how to do the design. Okay, well, we'll do one later on. All right, moving on to the next one, which is, how do we do calculations? Good question. Isn't that what you're going to ask? No? I know Ernesto was gonna ask that. He was just too shy. No?
Would you count Figma as a way of also like wireframe?
Figma? Yeah.